Why do you think so many software projects struggle even when the companies hire good engineers? What are your thoughts on that, Walid?
Number one is clarity. If the engineers or the software developers don't have clarity, your engineers will build whatever you're asking for, but without clarity or vision. You have to set the standard. Sometimes too, Usman, the leaders take a pause and take a step back.
Would it be fair to say that the execution failures are actually decision failures?
Failures is a way to learn things, but not constant failure, not being unorganized.
What kind of pressure CEOs usually underestimate when they are starting a software project?
The pressure is a bottleneck.
Welcome to the very first podcast of Value Props. My name is Usman and I'm the social media manager at Cloud PSO.
Hi, and my name is Walid. I'm the CEO of Cloud PSO.
And this podcast is for founders, CEOs, decision makers who are building software-driven businesses and constantly making high-stake decisions around technology, teams, and executions. So in this series, we're not going to talk about tools or trends. We're going to talk about decisions, the kind that either move businesses forward or slow it down. So for our first episode, we are starting with something we see again and again. Most software projects don't fail because of bad developers or weak technology. They fail much earlier at the decision level. So starting us off, why do you think so many software projects struggle even when the companies hire good engineers or the best developers? So what are your thoughts on that, Walid?
Number one is clarity. If the engineers or the software developers don't have clarity when it comes to the project or the vision of the project, then your engineers will build whatever you're asking for, but without clarity or vision. You have to set the standards when you're building an application, set the requirements from the beginning so your engineers believe in your vision, have clarity on architecture and design. If you don't have many of these things, then they're just on autopilot and they're just building what they need to build. So some people will always blame the engineers and the programmers for everything, but you as a business leader, you need to define a clear vision for what you want to build, what kind of value that vision is going to bring to the industry, how you're going to monetize it. And everybody, every stakeholder needs to have a stake into that vision, into that clarity. So number one, if you don't have clarity, it's very, very difficult to make sure all the programmers, all the engineers, the DevOps, quality assurance, everybody is moving in the same direction.
That's an important point because from the outside, everything looks good, in progress. Teams are looks very busy, updates are happening. But under the surface, the direction keeps drifting and the leaders usually feel something is really off before they can, they can clearly name it.
Absolutely. And sometimes too, Usman, the leaders, the CEOs, the CXO team, take a pause and take a step back. If you feel that your project is not producing the outcome that you wanted, stop and make sure everybody stops with you and define it. Define the clarity, define what where things are dropping off and so forth. So there's nothing wrong with stopping and making sure that the money that you're investing into these engineers, into that project, it brings out value. And it all starts with the vision and a clear direction of how you want to build things.
Right. So Walid, what kind of pressure do you think CEOs usually underestimate when they are starting a software?
So the pressure, there's so many pressure, but underestimating the pressure is a bottleneck. If you underestimate the pressure that you're gonna have when you're starting out a new company or building a new project, working with vendors, different people, there's always gonna be the pressure of cost, meeting timeline, finding the right resources to hire. What else? Making sure the application is actually working as you expected, proper quality assurance in place. So all these things really create pressure. Underestimating that pressure, you always got to know there's always going to be pressure when you're building something, but underestimating it is really, you got to keep that in your mind as a CEO in a company developing a new application.
Yeah, and the pressure doesn't show up on the roadmap. It's showing up in the gap between what leaders are responsible for.
Absolutely. It's not a predictable thing. Pressure is It's constant. You gotta acknowledge it, accept it, and make sure that you're aware that there's gonna be some bottlenecks when you're building out applications. Like I said, you can't really predict it. It will happen. You just gotta be ready for it. You'll be fooling yourself if you think, oh, everything's gonna be running smooth sailing, but it never is. It never is. Anybody who tells you that is not telling you the truth. There's always gonna be bottlenecks, pressure from different departments, even pressure with people not getting along. I mean, everybody's seen that. I've seen, innovators and CIOs and really high technical people, they don't agree on saying, and that really create that pressure. I believe if you gotta get everybody to believe in the vision, to believe in the roadmap and the technology that you're building, and so forth. So that pressure, gets better, but it's always gonna be there.
Yeah, exactly. Walid, do you feel like that the founders actually understand what they are signing up for once development is begin, or are they mostly reacting as the things unfold?
I think it's a mixture of both. It's more of a reactional thing. They're always reacting at kickoff, for example. So I would say most are reacting at kickoff. Most are, focused on, how we're going to deliver this roadmap, how we're going to get everybody in line. They feel that they need to have a lot more control when it comes to these type of scenarios. I would say budget is a huge thing. People are reacting. So for example, some people will budget like say $100,000 for a project, and all of a sudden they double that. And it's all because they're just reacting to the different environment that they put themselves in. It's like, again, I think you gotta have a proper plan, whether it's a business plan or a technology plan, with the right person in mind to make sure that, you gotta build in, number one, the right team, the right budget, the right vision and technology, and how do you get to incorporate that into a timeline, who's gonna do what, how's it gonna get delivered, how is it gonna get monetized, and so forth. If you don't have all that stuff, you're just reacting to whatever, things that are just happening that you don't have any control over. In order to build that control, you gotta have a proper plan on paper. Big time. I've seen projects that, even with control project, like the proper project management and so forth, there's always gonna be hiccups, Either you overbidded the project or you underbidded it. There's always that. You have the right engineers, you have the right talent, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes I even seen people say, oh, you're overqualified for things, we need someone who's underqualified. And it's not because of budget, it's just, there's a team synergies, there's people understanding the vision of the project itself. And again, if you don't have a somewhat controlled environment, a decent project management system or a decent project manager, and all the necessary skill set on board from the beginning, then things will be more of like you're just chasing at that point. Don't chase, stop and go back.
Yeah. So Walid, in your view, where do you see that software projects actually start going in the wrong direction? Maybe strategically, maybe not technically. We often hear phrases like the developer messed up everything, the tech wasn't the right. So what are your thoughts on that?
So number one, if responsibility are fragmented and there's no accountability, you're gonna have issues. So the second thing, I would say strategy says one thing, but delivery said another. There's miscommunication there. That's a big problem, and again, you need to step back and figure that out. The third thing is there's no one party taking accountability for what's going on, in that fragment. So you have to have that person, you have to have that skill set. And I believe the last thing is just the decision get diluted over time. If you don't have someone who is making the proper decisions and someone who sees your vision, the technology, the mission, all that just get diluted over time. So again, you're chasing, you're not taking a pause. Things are fragmented. Your team is all over the place. They don't have clarity on what's going on. I always say to people, hey, stop. Let's not chase. Let's figure out what's going on step by step, and let's make adjustment. There's nothing wrong with making adjustments that is going to, help you stop and improve your strategy,
Yeah, that's a really good thing. Walid, is it usually one bad decision or like a series of small decisions that compound over time?
I think it's a mixture of both, but what I have seen is always these small incremental decisions that really build up over time, and it create chaos within your team, it creates chaos within your plan itself. Setting up clarity at the beginning of the project and incrementally making changes as you see progress, that's going to help you a lot. So it's not just like, it's a one big thing. I've seen companies build huge projects and they have one big problem and it just takes everything back,
So effort isn't the problem, activity isn't the problem, it's the absence of single point of
absence of one point. Yep.
ownership that quietly creates like misalignments, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Something I've noticed is how many moving parts are involved, like different vendors, different freelancers, internal costs, or the internal teams and consultants. So from a leadership perspective, how damaging are these handovers to executions?
So I would say you need to anchor a clear definition of your project from the beginning. Have the right stakeholders from the beginning, or the key folks on that team. Understanding the technology stacks that you're going to use, any security framework that you need to meet, especially, security is so big now, you got to make sure it's included from the beginning. So you need to anchor all these things together. So that way you have a smooth project. I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect, but anchoring that from day one, even before you start programming, it's really going to help you drive things a lot better across the entire project, across the different departments, vendors, partners, and so forth. And security is key. You always got to make sure by anchoring all these components that you're meeting all the different compliance that you're going to have. Even if you're building a multi-tenant application or a BDC application, make sure that security is embedded and anchored with all these different components.
Yeah, security is very...
Yep, absolutely. Yep. And it's going to save you a lot. It's going to save you a lot of headaches down the road, because, I have seen companies, they build these amazing applications, really, really good application. And in the end, one of their customers like, well, hey, do you meet HIPAA, or do you meet this, or do you have this? And be like, well, we didn't think about that, and it sets you back. Now you got to go back to the drawing board. You got to anchor everything from the get-go,
Yeah, exactly. So, Walid, would it be fair to say that the execution failures are actually, decision failures?
Yes and no. Failures is a way to learn things, but not constant failure, not being unorganized, not having clarity from the beginning, not having an anchored project plan is considered a failure. But what I think success is like stepping back for a little bit and really understanding, what problems are we facing, how are we going to fix it, do we have the right people, and so forth. Stepping back is a success. It's a great thing to do. It's going to take you into success, taking that step back and a breather to try to understand what the hell is going on.
Yeah, that shifts the focus from execution to clarity of...
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, Walid, let's talk about what founders and CEOs can actually do differently, not to eliminate the risk completely, but to reduce the unnecessary chaos. So, if a CEO is about to start or scale a software product today, so what are the first decisions that they should slow down and get right?
So for a CEO, I think you need to manage the tech closely as possible to try so you don't have these issues. Staying involved with the team or having someone that reports to you to be focused on having a controlled environment is key to your success. So being involved I believe it's key. Some people will say, well, some CEOs, they don't want to be involved. Find someone who can be involved. It will hurt you down the road if you're just, letting people just build everything without clarity. or very clear defined requirements. So what is it? Some people say, well, what happened if they're not involved? We go back to that unclarity. Some CEOs, they have expectations that the application is going to be built the way they imagine it or the way they thought about how it's going to come out and so forth. No, you have to be involved. You have to be part of the team. You have to make sure that you're really investing the right time in the right meeting to make sure things are moving along in the right direction. If you're not, then, and this is quite normal, a lot of CEOs are very busy, make sure you have the right person who understands your vision and the technology or the application that you want to build, you want to monetize and so forth. Make sure that person is in tune with you and what you want to accomplish, and make sure they relay all that information to the people under that person. If you don't have that, then it's going to be very difficult for you as a CEO to make sure that all these things comes together. Because, so for example, at Cloud PSO, we work on so many different projects. We have so many different, product managers and so forth who are focused on specific things. We have this framework that we built internally, and there's always, okay, CEO don't want to be involved, but let's understand the CEO's vision, CFO from a financial perspective, and all the different stakeholders. And we take that and we delegate all that to someone who's very in tune with the product, the company, the vision, the budget, and so forth. So you don't have any of these issues. So having the right people from the beginning, having the right, the right product manager from the beginning is very key. But I would say CEO needs to be involved at all time, so you can have that controlled environment and you don't go above or under budget, and everything is being delivered the way you want it to be delivered.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like clarity, ownership, and accountability matters more than speed. But from your experience, how far should a CEO actually be involved in a software project before that involvement start getting?
I think you need to be heavily involved from day one. Let's just say you're working on a V1 that is going to take you 6 months. Be involved in the 6 months. Taper off once you feel that the team has matured. They understand they understand the technology that you're trying to build. They understand the business side of it as well. You can start tapering off. But me personally, I like to be involved. I like to see what's going on, who is doing what. It's not a micromanagement thing. It's more of like making sure that the ship is moving along and everybody's doing their part, and there's no ambiguity or issues with understanding what we're trying to deliver as a team.
Yeah. So Walid, when a CEO looks at a team and thinks like, hey, I can trust this team. So what signals usually tell you that the team is like genuinely mature or accountable for this project?
God, that's a great question. I love to see the sparkle on all of the programmers, light up. Once you see that everybody's involved and, project is being delivered on time, all the milestones, all the sprints, all that stuff is being done on time. And my thing is like, I like to see creativity. You take a programmer who understands nothing about, the technology or the application you're trying to build, and within like 2 weeks or a month, he sees a sparkle, they understand it, they want to build more features. That's what I love seeing. I just love seeing, it's like seeing a shining star. And that's the way I like to see the programmers and the project managers, the designers and the QA. I seen, there was a story where I had a project where I had to build a transactional application. It used a lot of data, a lot of transaction. And the QA process was intensive. And I think like 2 weeks later, that QA person, there was 2 people, they automated the entire QA process. It was rigorous steps that we had to take to make sure that all these heavy transactions are being tested and so forth. So they created all these beautiful automation that helped make their job easier, but it helped the company move, but the project moved quite fast as well.
Yeah, that's a quite interesting. So, Walid, what's basically the difference between having a multiple vendors, hiring freelancers from across the group, or hiring DevOps, or having a one accountable partner?
The difference is I would say multiple vendor will help your progress, having the right help from multiple vendors. But again, that vendor really need to understand your project clearly, like 100% clear. There's no guessing in any of the sprints or the timeline or any of the technology. That's number one. The second thing is that vendor will need to work with someone. They can't work with the CEO all the time. The CEO have a lot of stuff to do. So that vendor will need to work with the right talent or the right person within your organization and so forth. Same thing with partners. They have to understand exactly your project, what you're trying to accomplish, work with the right people and all that stuff. The other thing I would say is, don't micromanage these vendors or these partners. Let them speak up about how to make the application better, how to innovate. And the reason I say that because they have done this many times over, and they have seen whether it's a feature or team changes or technology stack improvement or changes. Make sure you ask your vendors and your partners, hey, are we doing it the right way? Can this be improved? Can this help monetize? Can this speed up? Whatever it may be, don't let them be shy. Empower your vendors and partners to be involved in the entire process, because your process will move tremendously fast once you get vendors and partners involved. Maybe in the beginning it will take some time, but after that, I believe that having the right partner and vendor online with your project is going to help you a lot.
Yeah, I think that makes total sense, because micromanagement usually, comes from unnecessity or a lack of trust.
Yeah.
But ironically, that approach often slows things down instead of speeding them up, especially when there isn't clear ownership in place.
Yeah. Like I said, from the beginning of this podcast, we spoke about clarity. Like, if you don't have clarity is the waterfall of projects. It's the waterfall of decision making. It's like you having clarity on pretty much every aspect of a project, especially that project is going to cost you millions and millions of dollars, time and money. You got to have that set in stone.
Yeah, exactly. Clarity is it's really the backbone of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even the best teams can get stuck or pull in different directions, which is a waste of time and resource again.
I'll tell you a funny story, Usman. One time we were building a cloud, did the project called OpenStack, and I love that project. It's one of my favorite cloud projects. But a long time ago, we were building an orchestration tool, and we wanted to integrate it with VMware, and the way it was going to work is going to receive orders. These orders will get processed. Then it's going to automate the whole process of provisioning all these virtual machines in VMware. And so we went through the whole process of building it. And one of the missing components was some of the APIs were not designed to be agnostic. It was designed to only support VMware. No, we wanted an agnostic API so we can support any orchestration system, whether it's KVM, hypervisors, VMware, and all that stuff. So not having the right clarity around that time, we ended up building, it wasn't a big thing, but we caught it in time. We were building with a lack of understanding of how these APIs should be agnostic of any vendor. And a lot of the programmers, they just didn't get it. And this was in the early stages of cloud computing, so there wasn't a lot of expertise within the hypervisor orchestration world around that time. But it was a good thing to see that, and also to catch, and for me to explain, hey, you're on the right track, but we need to be vendor agnostic, so that way we can support any hypervisor that we want to support in the future, or any cloud that we want to manage in the future. Not having the clarity from the beginning or set on paper, it makes things a lot challenging for a decision maker.
Yeah, I think really that's a perfect example of how missing clarity or early on can cost a project big time.
Yeah.
You ended up building something that works for you only for a narrow use case, when the real goal was flexibility and
Make it big. Yeah. Yep.
yeah. None of that usually doesn't show up until much later when it gets too expensive to fix.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with new technology. Like I remember like when cloud was coming out, everything was brand new. It's like you're moving from a physical world into a virtual world, and there's like, how is this gonna work? We're moving from like, these heavy metal machines into a virtual machine and so forth. And now it's like try to understand it and explain it to people. It's all new. I didn't necessarily blame it all on the programmers. I blamed it more on me, because I didn't set the clarity from the beginning. I wanted an agnostic orchestration system that support multiple vendors. So my APIs needs to be 100% agnostic, and they just, they didn't understand that. So we fixed it and we became really, really successful, so I was really happy. Yeah, in the beginning, there's always these issues. You got to understand there's a difference between a programmer and a system administrator and so forth. They think differently. You can't tell a programmer, hey, go build me something and Active Directory or Microsoft, load balancing. There's a different way, as an architect, you got to understand how to build all these technologies. As a programmer, you gotta get that knowledge transfer from the architect of how he would build it and take that into a programming language and program it. So it's totally different. So you have to be involved, like especially if you're a technical CEO, it's great. You have to be involved and it's fun too. If you're not, then get the right person to understand what you're trying to accomplish. But it's totally different. Programmers think different than systems administrator or architects and so forth. But, as long as they're moving in the right direction, everybody understand what they need to accomplish and deliver, I think everything will be good.
All right, Walid. So if you could leave CEOs with just one piece of advice before they make their next big project move around, what it would be?
So I would say if I want to give you advice is number one is like first thing is like have fun while you're doing this as a CEO. Make sure you have a clear vision and a clear mission statement of what you want to accomplish. Make sure your team is also having fun. Anchor the project from day one. Set your requirements from day one. Adjust, don't chase. Make sure you stop. If you have to stop, it's always great to stop and say, hey, let's take a step back and figure out what we're doing wrong. Make sure your vendors and partners are involved as well. If you have any questions about anything, always ask, don't hesitate. Your involvement as a CEO is crucial. If you can't be involved all the time, make sure that you hire the right person to be involved, whether it's a vendor or partner or a full-time product manager who could help you with that. I would say also understand the market that you're going in. If you're building a B2C or a B2B application or whatever it may be, or an enterprise level application, understanding the market that you're going in really well. Don't be shy, ask for help, even if you need to research data from people that or vendors that All these things matter. And the good thing about there's a lot of people on the internet that have experience, with all these things. I have built companies in the past, sold companies in the past. Having the right framework and the right mindset from the beginning is good. It's really, really good. And make sure that, you have good people who are accountable. They see your vision, they're having fun, all that stuff. It's very important. But I would say that the most important thing, make sure you're having fun. If you're not going to be having fun. You're going to be miserable. I always have fun with my projects. I want to make sure that there's passion involved, there's creativity, all that stuff. It really helps the job. It really helps the job environment become immersive, fun. People like coming to work and all that stuff. So that's my biggest advice.
Yeah, that's really great notes to end on. And this was the first episode of Value Props, where we break down the thinking behind successful software decisions in future. We'll continue unpacking how leadership choices shape the technology outcomes long before a single line or writing a single code. So thank you for listening, everyone.